Adi Joseph, deputy editor at Sporting News on the Locked On line here. Adi, we've got Kevin Durant in Golden State, the ongoing Chris Bosh saga, several big injuries. What's the storyline that's most fascinated you here in the preseason?
Yeah, I think the last couple days we've learned a lot about Kevin Durant's decision, and it's been sort of interesting to see how his mind works and to see some of these quotes coming out of Oakland and in particular the ones that, whether he likes it or not, the bottom line is that everyone has a point of comparison. And so when Jeremy Lin said last season multiple times that he was having fun in Charlotte, he directly meant I was not having fun in Houston or LA. When Kevin Durant says he's looking forward to playing with a lot of selfless players and he's looking forward to learning the game at a higher level, it's hard not to read that into, a little bit of a shot, at least, at the Thunder and where he was on the Thunder. And so, I know some people certainly have tried to defend Kevin and saying he wasn't making a comparison, but to me, those quotes and that storyline has just really bubbled up and drawn my interest.
Yeah, it seems like he's in a little bit of a no-win situation, because if he says that, he's enjoying playing in Golden State, it's an affront to OKC, and if, he says something else, then it could be interpreted the other way. But I want to talk about Kevin Durant's actual fit on the basketball court. From what you've seen here in the preseason, does this look like it's a match made in heaven?
I mean, that might be overstating it, but I don't think it's about – I think there are times where it's not about matches and fits, and I'm drawn back to the Team USA comparisons and the overzealous attempts to strategize how we're using our roster for Team USA. And the bottom line is, when we get our most talented players, it doesn't matter. And while the Warriors are certainly not Team USA, they do have 5 guys who have represented Team USA who will be on the floor for them, 5 gold medalists who have all the credentials in the world, who will be on the floor with them for the most important games of the year and for the most important minutes of the year. And simply put, they'll figure it out. I don't think we need to see them be good in the preseason. I don't think we need to see them be good in November. I don't think we need to see them be good in February. I mean, they'll be good, don't get me wrong, but this is a level of talent that we've never seen take the floor. So the main issue is, can they be healthy, and can they click and find that chemistry by June?
Now, what do you think of current or past players who have criticized Kevin Durant's competitiveness because he went to the Warriors? Paul Pierce, the latest, telling Sirius XM NBA, quote, "I could have left Boston years ago, but I stuck it out. I just feel like when you're that close as a competitor, you don't go join the team that just pushed you out." That sentiment is shared by several current and past players who have made that known.
Paul Pierce begged Kevin Durant to come to Boston with him.
Well, and Kevin Garnett, and Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen,
Garnett,
yeah.
So what happened was, and he's talked about this on podcasts too. Paul Pierce basically, when he realized what was possible, when he realized he wouldn't have to be the one to leave, he coerced Kevin Garnett. He basically had to show up to Kevin Garnett's house because Kevin Garnett did not want to leave Minnesota. And he had to essentially call him or show up to his house or whatever it was and say, "Kevin, you're not winning a championship in Minnesota. Look around you. This is our chance. We're going to win a championship in year 1. And to their credit, they did. And to Kevin Durant's credit and to the Warriors' credit, if they win the championship, I think all this talk goes away. And even with LeBron James and the Heat, it went away after they didn't win the championship in year 1 when they won it in year 2. So it's basically a matter of, does it work or not? That should be the criticism. And to Kevin Durant's credit, he also gave himself an out. If this somehow does not work, Kevin Durant hits free agency next year. He can start over. He can go somewhere else. It's this is a product of, and I know we're going to talk about this soon, a CBA that has a flaw in it that allows teams to do this, to stack superstars because of the lack of proper maximum contracts, and essentially open the door for this. And you know, I have a really hard time blaming anyone. I have a really, really hard time imagining that athletes who were in the position to do this wouldn't have. And Paul Pierce was never really in the position to call the shots and go to the best team. While he could have left Boston and he could have maybe gone to a team with better teammates in 2005, he was never in a position to join a team that was coming off the best regular season in NBA history.
Well, you mentioned the CBA. Let's talk about that. The NBA and Players Union are said to be very close to finalizing that deal that would prevent a work stoppage this summer. What are some things that you're hearing out of those negotiations that fans should or would want to know about?
Yeah, I think the big thing that we're hearing right now, I don't know that they're necessarily, from what I can tell, it's not so much that they're close on the actual contract as much as they're very certain that one way or another they want to get it done. That they all realize that there is so much money involved and the sport is in such a good position. And, you know, this season we've seen the NFL ratings drop and we've seen, massive societal changes in attitudes towards football and toward a lot of other things that have led the NBA to be in a position where it can maximize itself. And so thankfully the owners and the players have realized we can't blow that, and they're going to work something out. And the question is, how much do either side have to hedge when the goal is just to make sure the deal gets done? Because if neither side has to hedge very much, then we might see a similar structure. But I do think both the owners and players would like to do something about max contracts, something that would prevent the next Kevin Durant situation. If Kevin Durant could have just been paid $15 million a year more than he was, if he hadn't been limited to the same contract that Mike Conley got to sign, then I think this can't happen. What just happened this summer can't happen. So you see a benefit on both sides, and you can easily imagine the benefit there. You can also see, I know marijuana testing has been a major issue for the Players Association. They do not want players to be suspended for failing marijuana tests. I know the owners want to ensure some sort of way to make this whole D-League thing work and have players' rights there. And so you have all these different complex situations where I think they're very complicated, but they're very important. But at the same time, what's good that we've heard coming out of these agreements is both the players and the owners realize that while these are complicated, while these are important, while these will shape the future of the league, they're not more important than making sure that we're on court. And that's a great thing to hear for fans, for media, for everyone. It's
interesting to think about marijuana use being used as some kind of bargaining chip. Listen, we'll give you marijuana, but you got to give us something else here. All right?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially how these things work. And, it is something that I think you're going to see players. The NFL players have been very, very loud about it, about the use of marijuana as for medical purposes, for pain relief. It's actually a pretty major issue, and a lot of players care about it, and a lot of players have been affected by it. You know, as Hornets fans saw last year, Al Jefferson was suspended for marijuana use, and I think it's just a simple one. It is, but you just all those things get thrown into a pot, and
thrown into a was that a pun? Thrown into a pot? Listen. We'll take marijuana, and you can have max contracts and a hard cap, but you have to throw in a bag of Funyuns, and that's the last. That's it. Okay. All right. Let's talk about some sexy picks in the NBA. The Utah Jazz, the Minnesota Timberwolves, Detroit Pistons. They seem to be the sexy picks now. Assuming Joe Johnson can hold it down in Utah until Gordon Hayward gets back for the Jazz, which of those three teams do you see living up to these larger expectations for them this season?
I really like both the Pistons and the Jazz. I guess I would say the Jazz feel more like a guarantee. It's not just Joe Johnson, it's Alec Burks. It's the combination of George Hill and Dante Exum playing together. That they have a crazy amount of depth. And then the other team that I don't think is as sexy, but I'm pretty high on, that I wanted to give a shout out to, is the Denver Nuggets. And this is the time of year where you do a lot of thinking about what you think of a team and the direction they're headed toward. And I think the Nuggets could be very good this year. I think too much is being made of how young several of their backcourt players, Emmanuel Mudiay and Jamal Murray, are. I get that that's a major issue, but they've got a pretty solid front court that people aren't talking enough about. And I think on top of that solid front court is a backcourt that has enough in the way of safeguards and depth to really give the Denver Nuggets a chance to possibly sneak all the way up into the conversation for the 8 seed, be similar to what the Jazz were last season.
Interesting, and they certainly got a lot of continuity in Denver. It's clear that they are building something there, and definitely, yeah. But they do have some issues still to work out. All right, be honest with me, Adi, because it's almost impossible to track and remember every single NBA player move unless you're, Woj and you were a robot sent from space to cover all NBA transactions. But apart from that, have you had a moment this preseason where you went, wait a minute, that guy plays for that team?
What's funny is the one that surprised me. I actually took SC Nation has a fun quiz, who he played for quiz.
Uh-huh.
And the only one I got wrong was Chris Humphries, who played for the Hawks last year. And I just thought, there's no way Chris Humphries is still on the Hawks. So the one that surprised me the most was the guy who stayed on his own team, and Chris Humphries, who I just completely forgot that he had stayed in Atlanta. But, I think the bigger thing right now in this time of year is you're getting used to all these players who are going to be shipped right down to the D League, all the, to use the Hornets examples, Perry Ellis, how many people, other than Hornets fans, other than the people who listen to this podcast, how many people knew that Perry Ellis would be on the Hornets? I mean, he's got to go somewhere. He was a very good college player, but
right.
So you kind of get adjusted to that. But I think when it comes down to it, NBA benches shift around so much, it can be hard to remember, especially guys who change teams a few times, or
Boris Diaw. Boris Diaw got me in a Jazz uniform. Yeah. I saw him in a preseason game. Sure. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing there?
I love to go back to the Jazz. I love what they did with Boris Diaw and Joe Johnson, and I think they got them both at great values. They fit what they need in terms of veteran leadership, in terms of style of play, and neither of those guys is going to be someone who messes up the playing time of all those young players they have. I just think, I really do think Dennis Lindsey and Quinn Snyder have done something really incredible in Utah, which is build a 12-man deep roster that doesn't need a superstar and doesn't rely too heavily on any one player. And I think, is there a limit to what that type of team can do? Maybe to some degree, but they just need one player to break out. Rodney Hood takes the next step, and that team could be very scary.
All right, Adi, I'm going to get you out of here, but we're going to do a lightning round courtesy of my co-host, David Walker. He wanted to throw a few questions quickly at you. First of all, are we set for a Cavaliers-Warriors final rematch?
Yes.
How far did the Miami Heat fall in the standings?
11th, 13th in the East.
What was the biggest mistake of the offseason?
Timothy Mozgov.
That's a good one. What needs to happen for Steph Curry to Charlotte, those rumors to start heating up? What has to happen?
Joe Lacob has to sell the Warriors. They have to move. and
So a lot.
And Kevin Durant has to fiercely declare that this is his team, and Steph isn't allowed to shoot anymore.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
All right.
He's the Dumb and Dumber line.
He's Adi Joseph, deputy editor at Sporting News. You can follow him on Twitter at Adi Joseph, ADI Joseph. Adi, thanks for taking the time out to go around the association.
Thank you for having me.